Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell and I'm joined by my co-host as always, Marky Davison. Mate, there's people in the live chat, Steeler Chick, Kathy Forward. You know, everyone's keen for this show and Daredevil too. So welcome everybody.
Well, I was just going to say, you sound heaps keen too, Matty. Why are you keen?
I'm raring to go. I'm pumped, man. I'm watching the Olympics at the moment, and I've been having the banter with the guys in the Slack channel about Katie Ledecky and, from America, and Ariana Titmus, the Australian, who's they're equal in the golds. And then last night, an Australian, a white man, actually made it to the semifinals, 100 meters. He went to my school. He was coached by the same, even now, the guy that coached me. So, man, I'm pumped at the moment. I'm feeling good. Had a good night rest. It's a sunny day outside. Yeah, man, I'm pumped. And we get to talk Pittsburgh Steelers. We're a week away from the season. The regulars in the live chat are Steelers family. Get to talk to you, Marky D. Yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, we got also we have the Pro Football Hall of Fame game coming up in 6 days. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about that. A lot of the young blokes who are playing for the first time in the Steeler uniform, and what better way to start their career in hopefully in 10 years' time that some of these guys can go back to the Hall of Fame. So what a full circle kind of idea that is. We're versus the Cowboys. I don't care if it's preseason or if it's playoffs or regular season. We still want to beat the Cowboys. We want to try and run it down their throat. And I want to see good competitive football from these young guys. And I know we're going to talk about that a lot today.
That's it. It's funny, we talk about you talk about Hall of Fame there. Ryan O'Toole says Troy has COVID. I know. Can't believe he's got COVID, but hopefully we can get through everything to be right for next week. But and lucky it's happened as early as it has. But it's funny. So we have a kind of a thing. I have the worst handwriting in the world. It's like that saying that if you have bad handwriting, you should have been a doctor, right? Mine is terrible, right? I take my handwriting to the pharmacy once, and they're like, what is this? But we have a calendar up on the wall, and my fiance, she's always write all over it. I love when you write all over it. It makes me feel like we've got stuff going on. She woke up today, and I'd written Hall of Fame game in the day, and I'd put blocked out the whole weekend in black and yellow pen, and made sure that it was this is what I'm doing this day. Don't disturb me that day. This is what I'm doing, and it felt so good to be able to write that in the calendar. We're 1 week away. We're 1 week away.
It's pretty exciting, Matty. Sorry.
It's massively exciting.
I'm so keen to have football back again. We both have our for the visual guys on YouTube. We both have our Troy jerseys on. Matty just came in. This is something we didn't have last year with football and all the COVID stuff going on. Yes, we couldn't play it. This year with the NFL, we can. And, hey, we've got 4 preseason games, but it all starts here. And this is the journey that for a lot of the young players we're going to talk about. I've got a few drafted players I think that will step up and have a chance, and it's all about competition. You hear they had the Steelers had the big fan fest today. I would pay big money to go over there and be a part of that. It's just, I'm so excited to see it. And a lot of people say, it's only a preseason, but you've got to there's a small window for the NFL every year, and the offseason can drag on. So with the NFL, you've got to enjoy every single moment of it, haven't you?
That's it. I should actually clarify before I tell why, man. But we have never had, Australia's never had someone, we've never been able to produce this. It's not an event that we're good at. We've had some Indigenous competitors before that have done really well, but we've just never had it. And it's just Australia has never been good in those events. It's not racially or anything like it. But we're just all sitting back here going, wow, because it was an awesome performance. But yeah, moving into the preseason, it's so exciting, and this is why the title of our show today is Preseason Opener, because I think the Hall of Fame game in the old preseason scenario where you had 4 games, and then anyone that played the Hall of Fame game, it was the 5th game. This year, the Steelers and the Cowboys are 2 teams, and it's been talked a little bit about our fellow co-hosts of or hosts of BTSC shows is around the fact that the Steelers can actually operate this preseason like they would any other preseason because they've got the 4 games. So you can do that flow where it's all the undrafted guys, the guys on the fringe of the roster. The second week, you might see a full first quarter from the starting team. the third game, you'll see more like a half potentially, even though Big Ben still probably won't play many snaps. And then that fourth game, it's guys that are really on that fringe fighting for positions and what have you. So I think it's really exciting. And I think we should be feeling pretty blessed about it. One, we've got all these guys and coaches going into the Hall of Fame. It's great that we can supplement that with a game. Like if you were able to make that, and I know, Mark, you wanted to make last year's so bad and you would have done anything to make this year's if it had been possible. It's just, it's pretty much the Steelers Hall of Fame weekend more than anything. But for us, when you think about the O-line, when you think about the running back position, when you think about our young wide receivers, when you think about the new, secondary players that we've brought in, a lot of those undrafted free agents, we really need that fourth game. Like we should feel very fortunate that we're having that fourth game, because I think there'd be a lot of questions and there's more data and insights and play on tape that the coaches are now going to get to see against opposing teams. It's one thing to see stuff against your own teammates. It's a completely different thing to go up against an opposition team who haven't seen you before, who don't know your tendencies, So there's someone in camp right now that might be getting battered and bruised and might be having the best camp, but maybe they show up against the other teams. Although you've still got the scenario where we don't want another Tuzar skipper situation.
Yeah, well, he was a massive hype train, wasn't he? We talked about him last week and we all fell in love. But that's what happens to me, Matty, with some of these players I'm going to outline today. They do some really cool things, and it is only preseason, and then the fan inside of you falls in love with them, and at the end of the day, they might get cut. So that's a reality we face as in the NFL. You can't have 90 people on your team. You can only have 53, 40 ought to cut. So it's still exciting though. It's these guys get a game check or they get to be a part of it, and they're coming from colleges, they're coming from other teams, guys getting new opportunities. It's just really good to have football back, and then in no time, in 4 weeks, we'll have our team and we'll go and versus the Bills. And I think right now, we have a good chance we're playing the Bills in week 1. We have a good chance to beat them then rather than later. So it's going to be helpful.
Now, I had a question for you, Mark. It's been brought up in the live chat. Did you hear that Justin Houston went to the Ravens for the same amount of money that we signed Melvin Ingram?
Nah, it's okay. That's whatever.
Good.
I don't really care. Like I saw it this morning with these, big players going to opposition teams, and even my mate Mike Hilton goes to the Bengals. I dislike these AFC North teams that much. I don't care. I still think we have every chance to beat them. You've got to rally behind your guys. You can't worry about who you didn't get because it doesn't get you anywhere. You can't control that. So there's no point thinking, we didn't get Malik Hooker, we didn't get this guy, we didn't get whoever. I was a little bit annoyed about Hilton going there. But that's going on. I support the jersey and the team, not the individual player. So it doesn't matter who's wearing the jersey, as long as they're a good person, a good bloke, and they can smash the Ravens or smash the Bengals and Browns too. Then I'm happy. That's all I want to see. If we could beat them 6-0 every year, fantastic.
That's it. And as Ryan O'Toole says, if it's the same amount of money, then maybe the Steelers didn't really want him. And the other thing too is I think the other thing is the attitude. We don't want another prima donna in the Steelers team. We want people that are going to actually, go in there, manage, be happy to take, a lesser role at times or, balance the snaps or what have you. And also, now that Vince is out too, I like what Ingram can do. And, we've talked a lot about Ingram, so I don't think we need to go back into that one, but it is what it is. Also, before we crack right into it, Stacey Lynn, we've got to bring up this comment here. Stacey Lynn tried to make the Anzac biscuits.
Yeah, right. I tried making. She
says they ran together, but tasted good. Yeah, they kind of do run together. Like when I've ever seen them made, that's kind of how it goes, really. Unless they made a big one.
I've kind of got no idea what you mean by run together.
When it all mixes together, so it doesn't sit in its. I don't know. That's why I'm assuming what happened. I don't know. We might need Stacey Lynn to give more details. It just reminds me of everyone calls it something different. Like the home tech at school or whatever it is. Where you do the cooking and all the other sort of things. You remember high school? Is it home ed or home? What's it called?
I can't remember. We had one Might have been home tech or food tech or something like that.
Food tech, something like, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I remember I nicked some of my mate's cookie stuff when he wasn't looking, and I made this giant cookie that like I put in the oven, and I had it like make where it wrapped around the oven trays, and I had this giant U-shaped cookie, and he had a small cookie, and the teacher came up after and was like, "Why are you different sized cookies?" And I was like, "Yeah, mine's a bit U-shaped." I had this cookie.
You know what?
It was literally like, I can't. It's good for all the people viewing on the like visual right now, but for the people on the podcast, it was like 3 dinner plates. Like imagine like one each side, and then the dinner plate is the U shape at the bottom. It was great. It was huge.
They're quite handy, those classes, to be honest. I still remember I make a mean breakfast and a mean omelette. I still remember in year 8 I made a Spanish omelette, and then I've just improved it every single year, going on now 15 years, which leads into
the Big Ben of the Spanish omelettes.
I was trying to segue into like being into a player that we're going to our second year, and then I've got 17 years of Spanish omelettes, but here we go, Steelers, here we go. I'm so excited, Matty. Let's get cracking.
Let's talk. All right, so and we will address the Steelers Hall of Honor. We're going to do that in part 2, so don't think we're ignoring that one. But so home economics, that's what George Teston calls it. I know it's different in the US. But anyway. All right, let's crack into it. So the focus of today's show, Mark and I have basically gone away and we've picked a couple of players that we're sort of saying have a look out for in the Hall of Fame game, and what they might mean for the Steelers and what can we expect from them. And, it's going to be an interesting one to see where we both land on it, because there's going to be players that obviously are rookies and there's going to be guys that are on the fringe roster. It'll be interesting to see whether we've got some overlap. Obviously, we talked about some players recently in the last year, their deal, and Mark and I had minimal overlap, which is quite funny because often we think along the same lines. So, Mark, this week I want to go 1 for 1, and we'll see how many we can get through. I've got a couple of guys that might be a bit shorter and a couple of surprise guys for you. But who's the first player on your list that Steelers fans, BTSC listeners should be looking out for in this Hall of Fame game? And what could that mean going forward?
I should have got out my jersey because I've got a number 84, but it's going to be Rico Bussey. I
like this. I like Rico Bussey. I previewed him in War Room. We got him like under. Oh, yeah, this is good. All right, let's go. Do it.
Okay, for my take on it, I don't know too much about him, but that's what I love about it. So I did see him have an interview with the Steelers, and he seems like a very humble guy, a very cool bloke. Very down to earth. He seems like a worker. He seems like he wants to get things done. Now, the reason I bring him up is I think in preseason games, these are other players that we fall in love with. I want to see him crack some big runs, some good catches, really move that ball forward and get us in a position to win. Because these preseason guys, they are trying to play for a job. They're trying to be competitive. So they want to make sure they get a spot. And on the Steelers receiving roster this year, there's maybe only one spot that might be there, which is Ray's spot, number 5. And depending if they get 6. Now, Tomlin has always said, if you leave it put on the field and put it on tape, we'll look at you. So if he can create some headway and some noise about Rico Bussey, great name, good number, he's going to be someone to watch for sure, at least during preseason or this game.
Yeah, that's it. And he's another player that, he had a bad ACL injury in 2019. So I know a bit about him, but, he had this ACL injury. And before that, he was getting a lot of vertical separation. He is only 6'4". He's like 186 pounds, what have you. But he runs like, I think it's a 4.5 40 time. So he's pretty quick when we look at it. And this is one of the guys that I've talked a little bit the last couple of weeks around wanting a developmental wide receiver that can do the return game. I think he's got a bit of experience in the return game, and whether that puts pressure on a Ray McLeod. But that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what Rico can do, because you got to think, look at in 2019 what Deontay Johnson and what James Washington did with a Mason Rudolph and a Devlin Duck Hodges. If he can show up a little bit this week, I'd be really interested to see what he can do with a bit more first-team reps. And you know what? Like as well, I hope people don't get, lost in this whole number 84 sort of situation, in the fact that he's got that. Like there's 100 numbers or 99 numbers. Depends if you have a 0, right? But let's say there's 100 numbers that you can have a jersey with. There's 53 guys, in the roster that, are playing, week in, week out. Like, there's going to be people have to have the numbers, and we've retired 2 numbers. So at the end, and we've kind of pseudo retired another 3 to 4, depending on your
Well,
opinion of it.
that's it, Matty.
So like he's just got to wear it. Like it doesn't. I don't want people to buy into the 84 thing.
You can't retire them all. I've always had this little idea about a lot of teams are retired about 20 numbers. But if this game continues until we're in really like into our 80s or 90s and we're still watching football, are they going to go to like 10A, 10A and 10B and 11C? Like how many numbers can you retire? And Rico Bussey was asked about the number 84 and he said, I just got given the number. And look, he's a young player. And these are the games we want to see these guys excel and really put. If you want to put a bit of stress on the coaches, this is what you want to do. You got to go, oh, hang on, we've got Ray and we have a good core 5. Do we bring in Rico Bussey as well? What can he bring? What can he bring to our Steelers offense? And I think he's going to be very exciting to watch if he comes out swinging and maybe he gets 5 receptions or 4, a touchdown, does some key blocks, then he's definitely going to be someone fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think with him as well, like, he's the sort of player that I think he's going to be really good in like that. I'd call it the mid-passing game, but that sort of medium, not too deep, not too long, like not too deep, not too short. But this is the thing; he's someone that can get open. But I'm interested to see what he's like in an NFL system as well, and whether NFL coaching and getting off that injury has helped him. But he's a great player, Mark, that typifies why that first preseason game when you've got 4 or the Hall of Fame game in our instance, this is the sort of game where someone like that can start to build and progress. And, if he'd been drafted last year where we didn't have the preseason in the way that we usually have it, or even like what we have this year, he's a sort of player that was going to suffer from that. So I think that that's just an awesome pick. All right, let's go straight to your second one because I really like that.
No, you do my 3 in a row. Do my 3 in a row then?
No, just do the next one. We'll see if we get overlap that way.
All right. So the next one I looked into on the offense again. I'm very intrigued to see how this running game is going to go. And there have been reports that maybe Najee won't play that much because he's a superstar. So I'm thinking to my next guy, I can see it as well. Maybe play one drive. And I also had this thought too. And we talked about this off air a few weeks or months ago. We talked about us playing football. And I remember you saying to me, Matty, that you wouldn't play because you wouldn't trust the other team trying to tackle you. And it made a lot of sense to me.
Like now as in like while. Like, yeah. So to give everyone a bit of background, Mark and I were talking about sports that we would play. And I was saying to Mark, I've still got, like I just turned 30, right? And I've still got this thing where I'm like, oh, could I go around again and just play like, park football, as we like to call it again, we're like it's proper competition and tackle, what have you. But I said to Mark that a lot of the time for us, I played when I was the last season I played when I was like 23, 24. And the thing about it was that there were teams that just basically wanted a legal way to go out and brawl. And then there were half the rest of the league that wanted to actually play rugby. And I just said to Mark, like, that's what I don't trust because once you start professional work or, working regularly and what have you, you can't be walking in with, black eyes every other week and, this injury and limping and all the rest of it. It's just not a viable, proposition. So, yeah, that's sort of the background to that one. But
that's why I reckon it could be very similar to maybe holding out Najee and why they hold out a lot of the pros because now there are 90 people on this roster and on the other side on the Cowboys roster. I'm not saying they're going to go out and be thuggish. However, these players aren't in the NFL culture. They're coming in, and if they want to put a big lick on Najee, don't they? They would want to hammer him to be in the news and say, "Oh, I took him out," right? Yeah. So you've got to hold him back because you don't really trust the opposition and what they're going to do until into the regular season when you're going to be, going 100%. And also, if you put Najee in and he doesn't run 100%, you're going to get injured as well. So there's a lot of those factors. So have I said my player yet? I don't think I have. All right, time out. My player is Kalen Ballage. I want to see what he can do because we already have seen Jalen Samuels, and I'm a big fan of Samuels. I just like the way as a human and as a football player. We've got Benny Snell there, McFarland's there as well. Now, how does Kalen Ballage crack that roster? Like it's the similar thing to Bussey. He's on the outside looking in. If he can create some havoc, then he will get these coaches talking again.
Yeah, Nice. He's not on my list, so.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think there was that reports the other night after the training camp that McFarlane broke a 40-yarder or what have you. Like, I mean, Ballage is fighting Samuels for a spot, really. So at the bottom of the roster there. And I could see them putting Ballage on that practice squad if it's 16 players and you can have more veteran players. So, maybe you're right. This is the one for Ballage to step up. But this is also the sort of game that Ballage could be playing for a spot on another team. And, this is the sort of game where you do have those, third and fourth string running backs play and you get a feeling for whether they're going to scrape the roster or not. Or at a minimum, they allow you to rest your top guys like your Najee Harris's and your Anthony McFarland's. I would hope, though, McFarland does play a bit in this game. I think he does need to get a chance to go against, NFL sort of speed and, timing and quality, even though that we are talking about a game that's going to be largely played by, the undrafted, the practice squad guys, the third and fourth stringers. So, yeah, I think that's sort of the situation with Kalen Ballage. But, yeah, I mean, interested to see what he shows up because, we better know what he's going to do before he's going to make the team. So.
Yeah, well, it's just that this running back, we all know who number one is. I think we know who number two is with Snell, and then the counterpart, maybe the trickster, will be McFarland. And if they carry a fourth guy for special teams too, maybe Ballage can be on defensive guy in special teams, or he can start to run the ball. I just think it's like a lot of these guys as well. Like they could easily not make the team. Both these players, I've already said, Bussey and Ballage won't make the team. However, they might put a good bit of tape on preseason, and that's what it is. I'm not saying they're going to be 100% to make it. I'm just saying in this game, this is a perfect game for them to put everything out there and go, why can't I play football with the Steelers? And make people nervous. And it's going to make these other players better in front of them. Ray would be sitting there. If Bussey takes one back, Ray would be sitting there sweating. He'd be like, oh, no. Like, that's my job. And he took one back. And the fans will too. The fans will get behind Bussey. Do you want me to do my third? Or
yeah, go for your third. Yeah, go for your
third. This one is solely based on, and I want to this one. If he does play really well, this is the defense. This would be like Tuza Skipper last year, just because of his name. And you might know more about him as a player, but I love the number 51. I love what James Farrier did with the Steelers, and I like the name Buddy Johnson. I just think it's a cool name.
Fun fact, I don't think he's going to be wearing 51 during the season.
What are you doing to me?
Trey Turner's wearing a 51 at the moment, and they had that photo shoot the other day, and Trey Turner had the 51 on. I don't think Buddy, and I don't know, I didn't see one of Buddy Johnson, so I actually don't think that's going to be his number come the season. Sorry to say. All right,
then we'll scratch him off. Then I just did look for the number. What number? So he's gonna have to make the team and then choose another new number.
I think that's going to be the case. I think Trey Turner is going to play with the 51.
Because didn't Tuza Skipper wear 51 as well? Wow, maybe I've just got something with the 51.
Maybe
I'm pretty sure he did. Oh, I could be completely wrong.
I don't know what Tuza.
Anyways, so the whole idea behind that was that I was just going on the name base, and I thought, how cool is Buddy? What if your name was Buddy? That'd be the coolest name in the world.
But he's old school. He's got the neck pad.
Yeah.
And
if it for his talent wise, if he can turn up on the field and then I chose a defensive guy too. If we see him get a sack or a forced fumble and get the Steelers fans excited, really hammer one of those guys with the Cowboys, then it's another guy on their list and say, well, will he be depth behind Spillane and Bush? Is he a Steeler for the future? And if he doesn't wear 51 because of Trey Turner, fair enough. We'll put him as something else. But I just thought he'd be another interesting guy. And it's another guy we drafted too. He was drafted, correct?
Yeah. Fourth round. Yeah, okay. I like it. Well, you've cracked through them super quickly. I can't believe how quick we're going through. I mean, it's hard because we're talking about players as well. A lot of guys we haven't seen on tape before. Exactly. I've got four anyway, but I've got we've got some exciting things coming up for part 2. So why don't we bring Sling and the Slang way forward to now? We usually use it for open part 2, but we're going to move things around today, mix it up a little bit. Just as we always like to say, as Big Ben likes to sling the rock, we like to sling the Aussie slang. Mark, what do you got for the listeners this week?
Yeah, you've done and thrown an audible right there, and you've caught me off guard. I've done a full start. I don't know what's going on. I'm really all out of the loop.
5-yard penalty.
5 yard.
We're going to lose 5 listeners off listening live right now.
Yeah, they've been going up and down all night. It's, what are we, 1st and 15? No, so I've got this one today, and I know you know what this is. It's and I really can't get my head around it because I never say this phrase.
Yeah,
and I don't know, and it doesn't. It's if we can just like try and dissect what this actually means.
Sure.
So in Australia, we have this phrase that is called "have a good one," and
I say that all the time.
But it doesn't mean
people in America say that now too.
Yeah, but it's just like with the context, like it doesn't really mean too much. Like me and Matty could be at a party, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'll check you later, Matty. I'm going out to go buy some Mickey D's," and Matty would say, "Oh, have a good one." I'd be like, "You too." Like, what am I having, and why? And am I having a good time? Am I having a good?
But have a good one's like But that's what I like about it. Have a good one is like have a good day, have a good game, have a good drive, have a good whatever.
Have a good life.
Have a good one.
It leaves the second person into the interpretation of whatever it can be. So the first person just goes, "Have a good one, mate," and you're like, "Yeah,
Well, you just said Mickey D's as well. I think we have talked about that before. But for everyone as well, Mickey D's is what Australians call McDonald's, or we say Macca's, which is a really Aussie thing. Like when you go, I'm going to go to some Macca's or whatever. Like when I've been in the States, everyone's like, "What the hell is Macca's?" It's very different to other words connotations with Mac as well. So yeah, that's pretty funny. Have a good one. Do you know what I find really weird? When you get like work emails and people put best at the bottom of them, right? Like I know I'm a stickler. Like some people, I don't know, maybe it's an Aussie thing they do, but some people put best at the bottom, like instead of like kind regards or thank you or whatever it is, they write best. I always sit there, I'm like, what is it? Is it, best regards, best wishes, best day, best piss off? What does it mean?
It's exactly the same as have a good one. So like I'm telling you, I'd never say have a good one because I don't really. A lot of guys say it back to me, or when you go, someone gives, here's your coffee, you're like, oh, have a nice day, or something like that, and you say you too, like you get them all mixed up. Like we just say these things just off our tongue straight away. With the email and stuff like that, I say kind regards, or depending who I'm talking to, like cheers, or sometimes you just leave them in suspicion and say nothing at all.
Well, George Teston's come in with a special play because I didn't actually have anything for Sling and Slang this week. Mark and I just wanted to talk some Aussie stuff. Usually I've always been able to find a word, but George Teston, you've come in, you've saved me here with the Hail Mary. So George Teston says, "What does this mean? I come from the land down under where beer does flow and men chunder." Well, obviously land down under is Australia. Mark, what does chunder mean?
Chunder means to be a vomitron. This means after a big night or during the night time.
During the night, yeah. Mark and I come from the same school of thought.
Probably better than like I used to. If I was really sick from the beers, I used to try and sleep it out because I hate that. I don't like to vomit or anything like that. No one really does, right? But chunder is like
but surely you've done a sneaky mid-session chunder.
Oh yeah, because you can fit more in once you go to the pub or the club. You go around the corner before you see the security guards, and you just go, and then you run around and go, "Oh, how am I going? Am I looking all right?" And you just got everything down your shirt. And the guard's like, "Big night, mate." Like, "No, I'm pretty good, eh?" And then you don't get in. But yeah, chunders is it's pretty gross. We have a lot of gross terms like that. Now I'm going to get you back before we go to break, Matty, because a few weeks ago I did the American accent. And our mate, here we go, mate.
Right, the thing is, all right, but to be fair, right, I'm not too bad with accents. I'm one of those people, though, that, like, I have to, like, naturally break it out, not just, like, say it. That's the thing. Like, maybe I can start talking about it a bit later on.
Mine always starts with, "Oh, my God, can you guys do an American accent?"
This is the thing. And, like, the easy one is to do, like, the, "Oh, my God," and, like, the totally and sound like a, teenage American shit kind of thing. But I actually can do it. The thing is this is the thing is like I actually can do a half decent one, and I've been picked up on that before. So maybe we'll break it out later on.
part
No,
two.
I can't do it off the cuff. Off the cuff, I'm terrible.
Okay. We just used I love when the slinging the slang when we have nothing prepared and we have used off the cuff, Mickey D's or Macca's.
Chunder.
How many have we used? Thanks to George in that one. And I said, George, last week, I think I did, I'll use my credit card. Like it just hurts my throat when I do that. I just can't. Because we talk fast. Oh, I talk fast in Australia because you don't want the flies.
Very fast.
Yeah, you don't want the flies to, during summer to, around your face and stuff. You got to talk fast and get your point out.
Yeah. I enjoy bad shrimp on the barbie. I love it. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. It's great. Like it's not as bad. That's the thing. Like, it's great. That is absolutely great. Yeah, they call it Mickey D's.
Yeah.
The vomitorium vodka drinker comes up. It'd be better to tell us about chundering than the vodka drinker. But the vomitorium was a Roman thing. They would eat to excess and use a feather to vomit. So they could.
Is that true? So
I can't imagine it is.
So that was
it's past vodka o'clock now in the United States, on the East Coast. I don't. Is that true? Is that true?
The Romans were going before they went to the club in Roman days to go dancing. They carried a feather around so they would get past the guards. So is that what they did?
Michael O'Malley says, I'm Irish, we don't puke. I've seen plenty of Irish guys puke. Plenty of Irish guys puke in my time.
That's funny. Well, vodka drinker, I like that. That's something I've learned today that, So if you see a bunch of Aussie blokes carrying feathers around, then
All right, taking it back to the Steelers, though, who do you reckon would be the biggest chunderer on a night out?
Oh, I got it. My first
and
thought
then we
was,
got to get back to Steelers content.
100%.
Yeah.
My first thought was Juju. I think he might take it a bit too far. Because I think he might get one or two drinks in front of himself, be a bit too much of a party animal, chunder, and then back to dancing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, BMW Benji says it's not true. He took Latin for 8 years. Fun fact: I also took Latin for 5 years. I got sick of it. My school was really good at it. And I'd get high 80s out of 100 and everyone else was getting mid 90s. And I got bored of being the shittest player. Oh, sorry. The worst player.
There we go. There we go.
That's the second swear jar from me.
Put that in the tip jar, man. You're getting too relaxed.
That was, I got bored of being the lowest. I got bored of being the lowest on the depth chart. So I quit. Which isn't really the right attitude. But anyway, you get scaled down in the schooling system here. So it is what it is. All right. Well, that finishes up part 1 of this week's Steelers Touchdown Under. Join us at part 2. We're going to crack on with my list of players to watch out for in the upcoming Hall of Fame game. We've got a question to kick it off that we want everyone on the live chat to feed into as well when we kick off Q&A. We have heaps of audience Q&A. And we've got a super chat from Ryan O'Toole as well that we'll open up, part 2 with. But join us at part 2. If you're on the audio side, flick over, whether you're listening on Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, Anchor, iTunes app, whatever it is. And we're back on Steelers Touch Down Under. I don't know why I'm doing this big down under now, but anyway, it is what it is.
It gets better every week because we're getting so excited. And I just have to say, something may have been said in the first part, but it's fine. That's part of our slang and culture, and I'm pretty lucky. We've only said it twice, I believe, in 1 year. So we'll call those. Yes, we'll call those incomplete passes. So we're probably
But I said crap last time. Crap. It depends on what your definition of is, whether that's a swear word or not. I do say the S word quite a bit.
We got to go back to kindergarten. We've got to fold our arms and head up straight and okay, ready for Steelers talk.
That's it. Well, we got to bring up. We had a live chat to close out part 1 of the show, and Ryan O'Toole brings up and says, "You guys always go above and beyond for the listeners. Thank you. That's awesome. I know we sometimes get a bit general talking as well, but that's what this show's about. It's a Saturday evening. You want a bit more relaxed. We come with a different take on it. We've got that real weekend vibe for us by the time it comes on Sunday. For our time, everyone knows we, getting them, black and gold DeLorean, and we come to you live from the future. So thank you, Ryan O'Toole. You're you're always we definitely know you're a beloved member of the BTSC family, as is everyone that's, listening live on the audio side or watching live right now with us, spending their Saturday evening with us. But we know how much you appreciate the show, and we love bringing it, to BTSC family members like you each week.
It's because if we don't, we lose our job, Ryan. If we don't perform and be really funny or like know our Steelers knowledge like Matty does, then we're out. Every week we get graded by bad and F, D, otherwise we're Gonskis. We really.
A couple of weeks ago, I got compared to Randy Fichtner, and that really made me up for game. Just kidding.
We really enjoy it, Ryan and BTSC. This is a lot of fun for us to get the Steeler passion off our chest, so it's good.
That's it. Well, it's kind of stays on the chest, but anyway, we're not going to go there. All right, so before we crack into my sort of players to look out for, the Steelers have announced in the last couple of hours Hall of Fame class, not Hall of Fame, the Hall of Honor class. I'm going to read out the names, and then I'm keen to get your opinion on them. But you got linebacker, John Kolb. You've got wide receiver Lewis Lips. You've got Carnell Lake, safety, offensive lineman Tunch Aiken. I think out of all these names, from all the time that we've always had a chat around it, it's always been Tunch Aiken that you like to talk about. So what are your thoughts on Tunch Aiken making this, particularly given, he's now stepped out of, the commentary, given the, his illness?
Just before I do, Chad brings
up Kolb was a tackle. I thought Kolb was a tackle. Yeah. Wasn't linebacker.
He was a tackle, yeah.
He was a tackle because he was a tackle that protected Terry Bradshaw, and he was Oklahoma State Cowboy, wasn't he? As idiot.
Chad says here, if we don't perform, we get put on waivers. So, we could be traded to someone. They might trade us to the Bengals if we don't, know our stuff. But yeah, look, we've Tunch.
Can you imagine Mark on the Bengals podcast?
I'd sit backwards. I wouldn't even talk. I don't even start.
It's just like their O-line. They don't block.
No. With regards to Tunch, like for me as a fan watching the Steelers growing up, the disconnect is there. I didn't really see him as a player. However, he was one of the first voices that I heard on the Steelers Nation app. You put it on your phone or even on the websites back in the day, and you listen to the radio. I know some of my fans on the Steelers Nation Australia even they listen to radio before they watch games. So he definitely is a guy I see as a radio guy and a really part of the Steelers. I know that he was a football player, but who's the other guy? Wolfley, Tunch and Wolfley are the two blokes that always will call on the games, always part of the training camp. So good to see him in there, and especially what he's going through must be really tough. And now we won't really see him in the public eye anymore, which kind of sucks as well. But I thought there would have been some more younger players in there, like talks of like James Harrison or guys like that. But they went with a lot of the older crew, and I think it was Lewis Lips was the receiver. Another guy I didn't know too much about, but I know a lot of Steel fans do.
Well, Lewis Lips is a hard one for us as well because, when you look at the age that we are and you go back, you can pull up a lot of the early 1970s games and some of the Super Bowl run games and what have you as part of your Game Pass, but you can't pull up necessarily all the games all the time. And I think it's just the names that you hear a lot, and what have you. So it's a hard one to sort of, look at there. But I agree with you. I think Tunch is going to be really, really missed. It's interesting about the young players, as you said. I wonder if we start getting to the stage where they classify pre-1980 and post-1980 or or 1990 or whatever. Maybe they even do it 2002 and onwards, where you've got when we brought, in the different teams and, you shook up the conference and the division and what have you. So, but look, I think it's good that there's guys being recognized. I think what we're seeing even with the Hall of Fame class that we've got is recognition of the Steelers' rich history. And there's guys from the last 15 to 20 years, they got plenty of time to make it. The guys that are in, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
You've got to recognize them while they're around, I
was just going to say that. It does sound bad, but you do need to recognize their achievements while they are still living, and you can celebrate that. Because I can think nothing better than being a player for this organization that we love, and you're getting into the Hall of Fame. They must feel such excitement to be that player around by their family and friends. And we know that this Steeler team is different to the NFL, the other 30 teams, and I don't count the Bengals because they suck. But it's just different. It's just different to the things that we do, and we've talked about with our passion. Like we walk around the Australia, and we talk to our Steeler fans, and it just holds something different. That's why it does. I do feel a little bit bad. I can't be there this year. I was hoping to go last year. Everything happened, but honestly, if whatever the turnout is, there will be 70% Steeler fans, no matter what.
I'll tell you, Mark. I'll tell you, things come in swings and roundabouts, right? You miss out on this rich experience. Could a Super Bowl be cooking at some point that we're going to be able to go to? Could a Super Bowl be cooking? But
I'd love to go to one of those games.
That's it. All right, so I might crack into the first player because I'm keen to get to some really solid audience Q&A. We're going to see if we can crack through these. The first player on my list, we talked about him, I think it was 2 weeks ago, but he's Miles Killebrew, with Terrell Austin, from the Detroit Lions. So he's had 5 years in the league. He's, had some injuries at points as well. He's someone that's really struggled between this shift between safety and linebacker and what have you. And I was listening back to the curtain call, and you hear from Jeffrey Benedict a bit about Miles Killebrew and what could he do? What could he actually turn out to be in the right system? Is he really jumps in on certain plays and certain schematics, but he's not a regular, what have you? I think he's someone that's incredibly versatile. He's a great special teamer by all accounts. I'm interested to see, because this is the sort of game where you can start to see him work. But by the sounds of it, we're going to be misguided if we put him in that linebacker position, and he more needs to, be a strong safety and step in there. And I think it's good because it means that we can either keep Edmonds fresh or we can keep Edmonds on his toes. So I'm just kind of interested to see, because when he got a bit more game time and he played 32% of the snaps for Detroit, which is the most he's played in 2014, I think it was. No, 2017. He had 5 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble. He even returned an interception for a touchdown. He had a good number of tackles, quarterback hits, what have you. So this is the thing. He's never played more than that percentage. So it's very hard to make a judgment on him because he's not had the opportunity to actually perform. And I think that's why Austin wanted to bring him into the Steelers. So Miles Killebrew is someone that I think can use this Hall of Fame game and really build going forward. So that's what I'm excited about with Miles Killebrew potentially for this game. But I don't know, Mark, do you have any thoughts on Killebrew? I know you love the name.
I do love the name, and I wish Dangerfield could be, 2 of those blokes who are both together. I don't know too much about him from the Lions, to be honest. I didn't watch too much of Lion football the last few years. I used to watch a lot of the NFL football, but the last, say, 4 or 5 years, it's all Steelers. Will Killebrew start at safety? Does it even matter if he starts, or are you just looking for those competitive reps and to see what he can do on the field?
Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't matter whether he starts or not. Like, I can see him playing a fair amount of the game. They don't want to completely play Edmonds there. So, in such an early game and in the preseason. So I'm just interested to see what he's going to do. I just want to actually see him on the field doing things.
He's a pretty hard tackler, isn't he? I did see some highlights.
Yeah, he's a good tackler. He's a really solid tackler.
Yeah, and what about? Do you know anything about coverage-wise? Is he very good in coverage? Is he that kind of player where he can break up passes? Is he physical enough to take on?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. My thing for him is, and I got to caveat it with I've seen limited stuff from him, but my big thing with him is that when I looked at a little bit of tape, and when I looked at the metrics on his plays and what have you. He's a bit like the Benny Snell sort of notion. He needs plays to get adjusted to the game. And because there's so many seasons where he's played limited amount, it's hard to adjust. Like, you got to think, like, if you're playing regularly, you get the feel for something. Like, it's whether, like, take if you play golf or you shoot hoops around the backyard, whatever it is. Even like for us locally, people cricket, tennis, the same thing. When you haven't played in a while, you've got that rust, or, when you are not familiar and you go into a game or more competitive scenarios. So the thing is, you got to give a bit of leeway there. Like they can't just come in off, one snap after not playing for 3 or 4 games or like 5 games, and then you expect them to do, play lights out. It doesn't work like that. You got to get into the rhythm. So that's where I think it's exciting from that perspective with him. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what role they've got for him. But the second player on my list was cornerback that we got undrafted in this season, and we apparently paid him the most amount of bonus that we've ever played an undrafted player, and that's in Shakur Brown, the cornerback out of Michigan State. I'm really keen to see what he can do in this team. He's pretty versatile. He's coming off a 5 interception season. What can he do? Because there's opportunities for him. He's about 5'11", 190 pounds. He's got good weight and good size there, for a cornerback. So this is the sort of game that Shakur Brown, can really build off, in this preseason and really earn his spot on the roster. Because I think if we leave him on that practice squad, I think he will be taken by another team. So I want to see Shakur Brown step up.
Got a question for you, Matty. If these two players do not excel in the first game, are they a lost cause? Say, for instance, they don't excel at all. Shakur Brown goes backwards, gets beat on coverage. Killebrew isn't in the right spot. Are they a lost cause, or can they build on that into the other preseason games? And you're on mute, Matty.
Sorry, I knocked over my bottle of water. Yeah, good one there. Well done, Matt. Dropped it there. That was an Eric Ebron.
Yeah. So what do you reckon?
I think
if they struggle, is that it for them, or can they improve the next 3 games?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think you can judge people off that one game. Like the Steelers aren't going to make huge amount of cuts. But if this was that 4th game in the preseason, yeah, then that's going to be a problem. So as I was saying before, and Clarence Washington said it in the live chat, literally right now, it's build and learn. Build and learn. So that's what I want to see from it. So we've got Austria in the house, not Australia, Austria. They come before us now.
That's awesome.
Them in the alphabet of the countries, but
I think they're below us, aren't they? This goes Australia.
They're below us because of the A versus the I. Yeah.
No, I mean in the geography standings. No, that's New Zealand. I'm joking. All right, carry on. That was a word.
You got your world mixed up.
Don't worry. That was the worst.
Actually, remember we talked about this, that the poles swap with the magnets and whatever, and now we're not under, we're on top, and everyone goes, "Wow, that's too crazy." I love your yeet cannons. Huh? What's a yeet cannon?
No idea. Well, we've got Austria, England, America, Australia. We've got the whole world talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Don't we have German listeners on the audio side? I think you said to me
I think so.
We've got German listeners.
There's some blokes over there. I can't remember what their names are, but they're good fellas who run a page and have a good time. This is like it's universal. Steelers are everywhere, and that's why we love it.
Australia's beat Germany in the basketball in the Olympics last night. We beat America before the tournament, began. I got money on Australia's to get a medal for the first time ever. Anyway, let's move on. More Steelers. So the third player, I know I've got a 4th, and then we can get into some Q&A. So load up all your questions, but we're actually going to ask a question of you live chat to kick it off. The third player, Mark, is Zach Gentry. I know we had a lot of jokes about him a couple of weeks ago, and then Mark and I went and found the one play that he caught the football, and if Devlin Duck Hodges, and it wasn't that bad. But apparently he's had a good camp. Apparently he's put on some size. Apparently he's looking, I sound like the apparently kid. Do you remember that from a few years ago? I love that kid. He's so funny. He's so funny. That's mad. Anyway, but apparently I like to watch the Powerball. Anyway, there's a bit of an American accent for you. Anyway, the apparently kid. Well, that's his new nickname now, I think, Zach Gentry. On this show, we're going to call him the apparently kid. He's had a good camp. Apparently, he's going to do stuff. I'm excited to see what he can do.
He's caught 1 catch so far in the NFL. He's heading into his 3rd or 4th year. This is the time with the training camp. And like you said at the very start, these 4 preseason games mean a lot to these blokes. It might not mean a lot to Ebron and the Freiermuth. Freiermuth will get reps, right? He needs to have some reps with the Steeler team. But Zach Gentry's and guys like that, and I know another tight end got hurt the other day, and we brought one in. I think it was Raymond or whatever his name is. So he's gone, but someone else is in. But for Gentry, if he can, do some key blocks and have some really good chance to move this football, then he's another contention to say, hey, coaches, I can play some Pittsburgh Steelers football. Put me in, coach. Give me a shot. Give me a chance. And that's why, I never used to watch the preseason. I used to watch it, but I didn't really appreciate what it really means. This season, more than ever, I can't wait to see these young blokes play. But he can be this similar kind of guy as well, Matty, and you might agree to this. If he does all these fantastic things, but he just doesn't fit the Steelers scheme and not really part of it, and maybe he's more used just as a body for camp or for training for the preseason games, and then he gets cut. That can happen too.
The thing is that some players take 3 to 4 seasons to adjust, to put on weight. He's not like he's going to be a fight for his talents, from other teams anyway. So he's 6'8", allow him to get heavier, get bigger. He was a quarterback too, and I know it was at the high school level, but Michigan picked him up, right? So that's the other thing about Freiermuth is at least he understands routes. He understands, the timing to a degree, maybe he does come on finally. I was excited when they drafted him, and then it just did not really work because he's actually fairly quick. He's pretty quick too. He's not the quickest, but he's got some pace on him. And with that high, imagine him in the red zone. But that actually brings up, because there's a lot of discussion in the live chat, that brings up my fourth player, my final player of this to look out for. And he may not play a lot this Hall of Fame game, but he will play a lot this preseason. And that is Pat Freiermuth. I've been high on Pat Freiermuth. You can go back and listen to War Room before the draft. When I was doing my draft previews, he was I think it was mid through those. So I think if you go back to early April, late March, I covered that on Steelers War Room, the Wednesday show. And I had money on the Steelers drafting Freiermuth. He's, bought me a jersey basically, with his money. And he's a guy that has had 3. Now here's a guy. Anyway, he's had he comes off 3 seasons in college. And when he's played more than 12 games, he's had more than 7 touchdowns. And the whole chat during the week was once they get to pads, can he block? Apparently he's done all right there. I mean, it's so good. And I'm with everybody else, that thinks it. I definitely think that Pat Freiermuth, all things being equal, continues to develop, progress, doesn't suffer major injuries. He could be our best ever tight end by the end of his career. He's got the pedigree and he's got the potential. Now he needs the performance. And I think that starts this coming, not this weekend that we're in right now, but next weekend in that Hall of Fame game.
Matty, will if Gentry makes it and we have the 3 tight ends, will they be used all in the same play? Do we ever use the 3 tight ends, or do we
triple tight end set?
Can you get that? Is my head going crazy?
Well, you can't. Yeah, but it depends if Ebron lines up at a wide receiver position. But I don't know why you
for blocking
who knows?
purposes?
With the Matt Canada offense that everyone keeps going, what's going to happen? Who knows? You got 3 quarterbacks on the field. Who knows?
If they can all block and they can block for Najee, I know sometimes you bring in an O-line guy for the tight end. So sometimes,
but if you've got Freiermuth and Gentry on the field, I don't think I don't know why you wouldn't put Ebron on there, because he's not going to be able to set. Not necessarily set the edge, but he's not going to be able to block as well for Najee. So I don't know. You probably no. I don't see it'd be different if you had a Miko Pruitt or a Matt Spate or someone like that.
Yeah, but even the 2 tight ends with Gentry, you said 6'8", and then look, talent aside wise, he's a massive unit. So if he can be a really good blocker, then you got those 2 guys on the edge that can push the pile forward. For Najee. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that 3rd tight end spot. They generally do run a 3rd tight end, don't they? They have them on the practice squad, or they have them lingering around. So another important position for Gentry and for your mate Freiermuth too. Look, there's a lot of pressure on Freiermuth too. If he doesn't do anything, then a lot of fans and then skeptics will say, well, why did we draft him number 2? So the back of his mind, I think he needs to excel too, because like you said, depending where you are in the draft, you're either forgotten about or you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Well, he has a 29.5 vertical and he's 6'8".
Who, Gentry? That's tall, eh? That's like a double house, man. That's huge.
And he runs a 40-yard he ran a 4.49, but that's not too bad. And he wouldn't necessarily be getting the same level of technique training that he gets at the NFL level. So yeah, he's gonna be an interesting one. All right, well, that wraps up all the players that I'm looking out for, over this Hall of Fame game in the next week from there. Now, to kick off, we're going to ask a question back to the live chat this week. We want you to throw in, it's very Scobro Show style, to the nearest million, right? And after the show, I'm going to go back and pull this up because I'm going to focus a little bit on this on War Room this week. But we're expecting a TJ Watt deal potentially, in the forthcoming period, basically. We want to know in the live chat to the nearest million. Everyone now, watching us live. What is TJ? Doesn't matter about the years because it could be 6, could be 5, could be 7, whatever it is. But to the nearest million, what is going to be the total value of TJ Watt's deal? Now, just to give you a bit of thinking, Bosa signed a $135 million deal, a couple of years back. Khalil Mack is on a $141 million deal. Aaron Donald's on a $135. Myles Garrett's on a $125. So they're sort of guys that have signed it recently. But to the nearest million, what is TJ Watt going to be signed for?
It's not bad. It's not bad coin, is it? $145 million. I can't even think. I wouldn't even know where to start to begin to spend that money. Let alone
not per year. No, not per year, Sean. I'm talking about the total value of the contract. So BMW Benji says 150 million. Sean Manahan 160.
Is that over 5 years? Is that over 5 years?
It doesn't matter what. I don't want to predict the years, but I personally think we're going to be about 6. I'd prefer to sign him for 7 and then spread the bonus. But I just want to know what you think the total value of the contract is going to be. Michael O'Malley agrees with Sean at 160.
Man, that's
Stacey
crazy.
145. Whoa, 115 from Ian Marcus. I could see that 115 on a 4-year deal, or if there's a guaranteed over 80 million. I assume Watt's probably the same age as his brother. George Teston, 170. Michael O'Malley, 135. Interesting. Yeah, it's a fair call. The Steelers won't break the bank. But this is the thing. I think they're going to I could see them going heavy guaranteed. So I think if you look at Bosa's contract, he had 78 million of the 135 guaranteed. Like if I'm TJ and they offer me 130, but there's 85 or 90 guaranteed, I think I'd take that over the 150. I'd just take the guarantee. You want guaranteed money there. What people are saying, they don't do it for people other than quarterbacks. But we've got to remember that the Steelers at some point in the next 3 years are likely to be bringing in a quarterback on their rookie deal so they can afford to make these savings. And the salary cap, it's going to be, I think at the moment they're saying the ceiling will be 206.2 million. I think they've put the number out next year, and it technically could be higher. We got to think in 3 or 4 years' time, that salary cap with their new TV deals, I think at some point they're going to address an 18th game. You could be talking about a salary cap of 230, 240. Suddenly, an average of $40 million a year isn't that much. And that's why Kansas City signed Mahomes to the contract they did. But look,
I wonder what he buys first. What does he not own that he needs $170 million?
I hope he buys the Manly Seagulls, Mark.
That'd be the best.
Surely he buy a jet. Surely he throws in with the other Watts, and they buy. Actually, you know what? Derek should buy TJ a jet to say thank you for getting me a decent contract. That's what should happen. He should buy his brother But I think this makes TJ the front runner to be the favorite uncle of Derek's kid now. JJ's out with this one.
He just seems like a normal dude, though. He seems like a normal bloke that, money's money. At the end of the day, it's awesome to have it. It's great. But I can still see him, rocking shorts and running around and still playing hard for the Steelers. A lot of those guys sign the big contracts and they tend to fade away. But I think that Watt's got that Polo Amalu mentality of football is his life, and it's his passion, and that's what's good to see. So I don't get involved in too much with the contracts. I know you do a lot, and it's great, and you can figure it all out. But As long as he keeps showing his mentality on the field, then hey, he's worked for it, hasn't he?
I think he wants the legacy, though. I mean, you think about it. He's half a sack away from 50 sacks off like 5 seasons, right? Like, he can go down in he like at the moment he's probably already a Steelers Hall of Honor player, right? Particularly if they're done more in the playoffs. You think about where he's going to be, in the next 5 years, and that sack. And as we talked about a couple of times with TJ. Every year he's gotten better statistically across the board. And I talked about War Room this week, the role of edge rushers in the Steelers, 56 sacks last year, 213 pressures, 80 quarterback knockdowns. And TJ is accounting for like over a quarter of, of what these numbers are. That's massive impact. But I think in terms of moving on from this question, I think Sean Manahan brings up, what do you guys think the salary cap will be like next year? Look, it is set at that $206.2 million that I just said earlier. I could see it going up to 208, but I think they're going to be really careful about overstepping it this year and letting it jump more the following year. Equally, this Delta strain is ripping through most developed countries at the moment. So whether we've got fans in full capacity, fans in the stands, every game in the NFL is going to be a hard one to judge. But I'll tell you what, they're raking us over the hot coals internationally in terms of the cost of Game Pass. So the league's revenue won't be too dipped. Like the NFL never makes a loss. But I think they're going to have to start, going back to extending that cap. But it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, but I think max you're going to see is 208.
Oh, we've got one here from behind the steel curtain. I think, oh, geez, Matty.
I've had 2 little mini American accents. So, Marky D, rack off, as we said a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, it's so fun.
Oh, it's great. Hijack the live chat. It's sneaky use of the live chat. You know what that is? That's a Bill Belichick Spygate or a Deflategate. That is.
No way.
Yeah, that's what that is. You stoop to that low, mate. You stoop to that low.
Look, I'm a good guy. I'm like Mike Tomlin, but putting the leg out for the Ravens. that's what I think it would be. Not Bill Belichick, But Mike, he wasn't in the way. He's just stretching his leg.
I sneakily love that. He was definitely.
Yeah, I know, and I like how as Steelers fans, we just forget about that. We just don't bring it up. It's just like 100%,
100%. It's like the whole. I mean, and I think he was justified in doing it, and he's been brought up by BMW Benji, but it's like when Juju did that standover block. Remember when he smacked Burford? Absolutely this is the thing. Like we all talk about Juju and he's looking big. Like he looked big last year. He's looking real big this year. Some of those training camp photos, but we talk about Juju and the TikToks and all the rest of it. But don't forget Juju's physical player, man. Like that block, for me was Steelers folklore. I love that.
I've got to get back. I was, harping on Juju a bit with all the TikToks.
You've been pretty. When I listen back to our shows, you're pretty on Juju, man.
I know. I got to stop. He is a good football player. I just think he has a bit of a kid mentality sometimes. But don't we all? I know I do.
But he's a kid. This is the thing. He's one of the He's younger than Deontay Johnson. I'm pretty sure it is.
I do like to see him be very passionate. But I've got one thing for you, Matty. This kind of just came to my mind just then.
Yeah, no, good, because I think we're up with all our live.
Well, how I got this fear on the Steelers and the NFL, right? For both the offense and the defense. I got a fear that when a player catches the ball now, they celebrate too early, and then they would run the opposite direction into that fan cam. I can see players doing that this year on offense and defense. They fall over, they make a big play, and they run the other way. On defense, they might do that. And on offense, they might put the ball down like they did in college, and the other team gets it. I think that what I'm worried about with some of these players, they all get together, and I know on defense, is it happens for sure. They get a pick, and then they run back to the end zone, to that fan cam. That's going to create a safety. I could really see that happening this year in the NFL. I know that it came out of left field, but what are your thoughts on that? How they grab it and they're not touched, or they might not get touched, and they run the other way, and then it's 2 points.
That's an interesting thought.
Do you think that can happen? Because I think it can. Because I think
100%. It's like when guys like celebrate and the ball gets knocked out of their arms as they're not noticing what's going on around it. 100%.
Yeah, or they do the fumble. And
I gotta say, unless it ends a game, I'm a little bit over this running it into the friggin' end zone all the time.
That's what I'm saying.
We talked about this about 6-7 months ago. Unless it's like a pick six, if you get an interception, celebrate on the field. You don't run it all the way to the other. Like,
that's my biggest fear. And Stacey Lynn says it can happen. Like, if you get an interception, you're not touched, and you get your whole crew down the other opposite end, and then the ref goes, well, safety. Like, I can see it happening this year because these players have big egos, big personalities, and I just think it's an opportunity that these players need to play to the whistle, and they need to rally around the football like they did on the James Harrison pick six and play until the whistle's over.
All right, I got a fun one for you, right? The NFL doesn't want, like, they're trying to limit collisions, right? And if you take the onside kick, you take it from like closer into your half, right? What if they did? I don't know. This came up a few years ago when I was talking with a bunch of mates about the NFL, right? We said, what if you kicked it off from the 55-yard line or the 60-yard line, right? You know, when you do like a kickoff, right? And if you get the ball through the posts, you get 1 point, right? Like, since what would usually be a touchback, right? So if you're kicking off, if I'm Chris Boswell, I can choose to take the kickoff. They take it further back, but if you kick it off that kickoff through the uprights in the middle of the uprights, you get 1 point. Imagine if they changed that.
If they did that, right? What are the chances of that the player could do it every single time? Because wouldn't you just
That's
get
the
1
point.
point?
You could.
I don't like changing the rule.
But if you miss, take it from the team that you're kicking off to gets the ball from the halfway line. But imagine like fourth quarter, instead of going to overtime, you take that risk.
It would start to turn into a bit of NBA when near the last 1 minute takes about 50 minutes to finish.
I wasn't a fan of it. But it was an interesting discussion.
Yeah. But Stacey Lynn is on it again. That would be a bad idea.
I know. I don't think it's a good idea either. I'm just saying.
She's very blunt about that.
Yeah. It might all run together like the biscuits. That's not good. But look, I think that wraps up Steelers Touch Down Under for this week. I'm Matt Peverell with Marky D. Hall of Fame game is right around the corner for all your Steelers needs. Behind the Steel Curtain is your one-stop shop, whether it's behindthesteelcurtain.com or it's our podcast, whether it's our audio shows. We've got it all. Everything black and gold. As always, Mark.
Go Steelers.
Man, you always got a delay.